This field is known today as Iverson's Pits. On July 1st of 1863, 1,400 North Carolinians under the command of Alfred Iverson would advance into this field. What happened next would become one of the most chilling and senseless acts of the battle. An entire Confederate brigade walking blindly into a death trap. This is the story of Iverson's Pits. Come dawn on July 1st of 1863, the rolling hills and ridgelines west of the town of Gettysburg were quiet. But this silence wouldn't last. At about 7:30 a.m., as two Confederate brigades were approaching Gettysburg, Lieutenant Marcellus Jones grabs Corporal Levi Schaefer's carbine and reportedly fires the first shot of Gettysburg. Soon, this small cavalry skirmish would escalate into the bloodiest battle of the American Civil War. The fighting spreads quickly, drawing in more and more men by the minute as brigades maneuvered through wheat fields, woodlots, and dusty farm roads. This small Pennsylvania town found itself at the center of an unexpected yet colossal collision of armies. By early afternoon, the Union line ran in a semicircle west, north, and northeast of Gettysburg. Around 2 p.m., the Confederate Second Corps would arrive, and a division under the command of General Robert Rhodes approaches from the north, aiming to strike the Union right flank. Among the men in Rhodes' division was a brigade of North Carolinians under the command of General Alfred Iverson. With orders to attack across open ground, Iverson sent his men forward, but would remain in the rear. The brigade, consisting of the 5th, 12th, 20th, and 23rd North Carolina Infantry, was swarmed into lines of battle and ordered to advance towards a line of trees about 300 yards away, bordered on their left front by a low stone wall. The brigade would go in blind, however, due to no skirmishers being deployed to their front. Unknowingly, the North Carolinians were marching into a death trap. Behind that low stone wall was a mixed brigade of soldiers from New York, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts belonging to the Union's First Corps. These men were commanded by Brigadier General Henry Baxter. Baxter quickly shifted his men from facing O'Neill's brigade to the north and faced them west along the stone wall. Union soldiers anxiously awaited. As each moment passed, the North Carolinians drew closer.
Iverson's men, with arms at a right shoulder, came on in splendid array, keeping step with an almost perfect line. Private John Vaudier, 88th Pennsylvania Infantry.
The troops bounded forward, not knowing certainly where the enemy was, for his whole line with every flag was concealed. Not one of them was to be seen. Lieutenant Walter Montgomery, 12th North Carolina Infantry.
At about 80 yards came the shouts of fire. The Union soldiers jumped to their feet in front of the unsuspecting Confederate troops and began delivering volleys. The effect was instant and horrific. Men fell in rows, cut down in tight formations with nowhere to run, no cover to shield them.
Hundreds of the Confederates fell at the first volley, plainly marking their line with a ghastly row of dead and wounded men, whose blood trailed the course of their line with a crimson stain clearly discernible for several days after the battle, until the rain washed the gory record away. Private John Vaudier, 88th Pennsylvania Infantry.
Some never even fired a shot. The line of Confederate dead looked as though they had laid down to rest. Ranks struck down so uniformly, so suddenly, it defied belief. Bodies piled atop one another, tangled in the now blood-soaked grass. their muskets still clutched in their rigid fingers. The air was so thick with lead, some wounded men trying to crawl away would be shot again. The surviving North Carolinians tried to take shelter in a shallow dip in the terrain and form a firing line. Unfortunately for them, their right flank was still exposed by additional Union troops in the wood line. The Union troops poured volley after volley into Iverson's brigade. Iverson's advance was slowed and then stopped.
Unable to advance, unwilling to retreat, the brigade lay down in a hollow or depression in the field and fought as best it could. Captain V.C. Turner, 23rd North Carolina.
Seeing an opportunity, the Federal Brigade of Henry Baxter would counterattack. Baxter would send 3 regiments, the 88th Pennsylvania, the 83rd New York, and the 97th New York, over the wall. In a moment, they were upon the stunned and demoralized remnants of the 5th, 20th, and 23rd North Carolina, taking almost 400 prisoners just from Iverson's brigade alone. The flags of the 5th, 20th, and 23rd North Carolina were also captured during this charge. The 88th Pennsylvania would make this charge with emptied rifled muskets because all their ammunition had been used up in the slaughter. Iverson, still in the rear, reportedly believed his brigade had broken and fled, only to be told moments later they had not run. They had been slaughtered.
When I saw white handkerchiefs raised and my line of battle still lying down in position, I characterized the surrender as disgraceful. But when I found afterward that 500 of my men were left lying dead and wounded on a line as straight as a dress parade, I exonerated the survivors. Brigadier General Alfred Iverson.
When the smoke cleared, over 500 of his men lay dead or wounded in just minutes of fighting. Days after the battle, the bodies of the fallen were buried in hastily dug, shallow trenches, virtually in the same spots where they fell. An artilleryman from Virginia would describe what he witnessed.
There were 79 North Carolinians laying dead in a straight line. I stood on their right and looked down their line. It was perfectly dressed. 3 had fallen to the front. The rest had fallen backward. Yet the feet of all these dead men were in a perfectly straight line. They had evidently been killed by one volley of musketry, and they had fallen in their tracks without a single struggle. Private Henry Berkeley.
As time passed, the graves settled. The fields were visibly marked with the sunken rows where the trenches had been dug. Locals would name this grim spot Iverson's Pits.